Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing Microsoft's 2025 Xbox price hikes, as gamers' wallets get squeezed even harder than they already were. On May 1st, Microsoft announced increases in pricing across the Xbox portfolio, including consoles, peripherals, and first party titles, the last of which will kick in during this year's holiday season. The price of an Xbox Series S is going up by 80 USD, Series X by $100, or 130 for the special Galaxy Edition, and first party Xbox titles will now cost you 80 bucks a pop. Conveniently, that last change will go into effect right around the next Call of Duty release, and when plenty of other blockbusters for this year are set to come out. Xbox is far from the first large scale brand to up their prices, even this year. Nintendo pissed off just about everyone when they revealed Donkey Kong Bonanza, the Switch 2's first headlining system seller, and its corresponding $70 price tag. And Sony has already upped the PS5's cost multiple times since it released. But it has been rare to see such wide ranging changes put into effect all at once. Combined with global economic uncertainty and concerns around the gaming industry's financial stability in general, this does not seem like a good sign for consumers and will almost certainly not be the last price hike we see in 2025. Just a few years ago, I could pick up 10 brand new AAA games for $600. Don't get me wrong, that price tag is certainly not nothing, but when you stop and realize that now, buying the same 10 games will set me back $800, a 33% increase in price, it really starts to highlight just how dire this is. I'm not sure about you, but my salary certainly hasn't increased by 33% in the same time frame. And unless you're job hopping around every few years, this unsustainability immediately becomes apparent. When parents are struggling to make ends meet, what are they supposed to tell their kids who come asking for the next Fable, Gears of War, or Indiana Jones type game and realize it's going to set them back almost $100? My parents sure as hell couldn't afford that type of expense when I was growing up, and with the financial situation of more and more households growing more and more dire each year, there could be an entire generation of potential gamers priced out of the hobby, which is truly heartbreaking. That scenario doesn't even factor in currency conversions for many countries where the price of new games is already outrageous, and only looks to get worse. Microsoft can try hand waving away the increase by pointing to Game Pass, but that only gets them so far. And although the service avoided another price hike during this round of adjustments, it's hard to imagine subscribers, such as myself, won't see at least one bump, if not more, before the end of this year. From a hardware standpoint, the Xbox Series S used to be lauded as one of the best, most affordable deals in gaming. But where does this price increase leave it now? With the lowest entry point in Microsoft's console ecosystem shooting up in price by over 25%, the idea of picking up a cheap Game Pass machine certainly seems less appealing than before. Remember when console prices used to go down a few years after release? Pepperidge Farms remembers. It's no secret that Xbox hardware sales have struggled mightily this generation, and it's hard to imagine how the company sees this getting any better. I truly shudder to think what the next gen of consoles will be priced at, based on the increases we've already seen from each of the big three. Like so many before them, Microsoft attempted to justify these price hikes with references to market conditions and the rising cost of development. While there certainly is some weight to the validity of those claims, it doesn't make it any easier for players to stomach, especially when the quality of AAA gaming these days is often questionable at best. Credit where it's due, the slate of releases Xbox has under its belt in the last 6 months, and what's scheduled to come out before the end of this year is, inarguably, the best serving of games from the company this console generation. And Game Pass, which I've always praised as one of the best deals in gaming, has never seemed like a better proposition than it does right now. But when you have so many cases of big budget, blockbuster, AAA titles falling flat on their face while charging a premium price, it gets even harder to stomach the idea of shelling out almost $100 for a subpar, and in many cases, downright awful product. We as players are just supposed to bankroll these failures and be okay with paying for experiences that come nowhere close to justifying their price tag? This rings especially true when some of the highest quality, most deserving games released in the last several years come from indie and AA developers. Those AAA failures seem even more laughable in the face of products like Clair Obscur and Blue Prince, put out by teams operating with a fraction of the manpower and budget, but are somehow able to crush their larger competition in sales, reception, and pretty much every other category, while also charging less for their games. It will be interesting to see how free-to-play and mobile titles are affected as well. Mobile is a world of its own, and might be somewhat insulated, But I'd be surprised if in game monetization through season passes and cash shops in games like Apex, Fortnite, and Marvel Rivals doesn't see increases too. This also raises some interesting questions about games like Concord and Marathon. Previously, PvP shooters would have almost certainly been released as free to play, but Sony is at least trying their hand at double dipping, and despite the abject failure of Concord, other publishers and devs might follow suit, especially if Marathon hits the level of success Sony is betting on. People used to laugh nervously whenever someone mentioned Rockstar and Take-Two charging $100 for GTA 6, but at this point, it almost seems like a foregone conclusion. I mean, it's GTA 6 we're talking about, and as much as people might like to pretend it would never happen, that proposition just got a lot more real. And it certainly seems like the price of games are well on their way to reaching levels we haven't seen in almost 30 years. Sure, game cartridges back in the day used to cost 80, 90, $100, but that was a product of factors like limited supply and the actual form of delivery as much as market behavior or supply and demand. In this day and age, when gaming continues to trend towards a digital future, what reason can these companies offer for such increases other than the all consuming desire to squeeze out more profitability and surpass shareholder expectations? We aren't even halfway through the year, and that 2025 fall release window is already looking like a bleak affair. I've always found a sort of simple magic in gaming during the holidays, feet kicked up with a cup of hot cocoa and a great game on my screen. But that dream seems a whole lot darker with the thought of $100 games looming over my head. I am extremely blessed to be in a position where, as someone who plays games as a hobby and even a passion, my job allows me to take part in new releases, maintain a long running Game Pass subscription, and basically spend whatever I want, whenever I want, on whatever game catches my eye. But even for someone like me, who can afford to purchase games at higher prices, these types of increases definitely incentivize relying on my Game Pass subscription, or just waiting for a sale instead. While this is probably part of the equation Microsoft carefully calculated before implementing these changes, a service like Game Pass isn't going to save me when Sony and Nintendo decide to up the price of their first-party titles, or when other companies like Take-Two, EA, and Ubisoft follow suit. After all, if another business is milking their customers for every drop of money they can, why shouldn't we do the same? Even as a Game Pass subscriber, I still purchase some first-party Xbox titles at full price if they're from a studio I really love and like to support, Avowed and the Oblivion remaster being some recent examples. But if doing that is going to cost me 10 or 20 bucks more each time, well, that's something I'll need to start factoring into my equation when it comes to dishing out that support. And there are only so many people who can subscribe to Game Pass before Microsoft is forced into a Netflix situation and starts coming up with new and inventive ways to squeeze more money out of that service as well. If this trend continues across the wider gaming industry, we might very well see a return to the days when gaming really was a hobby, where only those with the necessary financial backing will be able to enjoy it to the fullest. And that will be a sad, sad day indeed. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more gaming content, and let me know your thoughts on Microsoft's price hikes and how they'll affect your spending habits in the comments below. You're a real one and I appreciate you. Catch you later.